here. Don't do anything crazy. No random shit, okay?
I had my own strategy. I was actually working for you guys. So what I did at the last moment, I just pulled back. So you guys need to buy me some beers.
What is it about riding a bike that is so liberating? What unites us all is the craving for that special feeling. This is what inspired the developers at Garneau to create the innovative, award-winning X-Comfort technology, optimizing comfort to maximize performance and, most of all, the good feelings that make us so passionate about riding. The brand new X-Comfort Zone incorporates an elasticized zone that expands up to 5 millimeters to accommodate B through D+ foot widths. We all pedal in the same way. As you push down, your toes naturally splay. And the dynamic changes that happen inside your shoe as your feet contract and expand under pressure as you ride. The pressure and friction created as the outside of your foot expands over and over against your shoe can create serious and painful hot spots and irritations. The longer you ride, the worse it can become. This makes for a level of never-before-experienced comfort in the highest performing cycling footwear. Every cyclist rides for that special feeling that cycling brings to us. Each one of us has our own version of what it means to enjoy the ride. We just help make it possible.
Esports. We love to play. Since the 1980s, video games and competitive gameplay have been part of our Western culture. The video arcade, the Atari, Nintendo, PlayStation, even PC gaming are all part of this rich cultural lineage of play. We play ourselves, we watch, we even compete. What makes an esport? Well, any individual or team game that can be played on a level playing field in competition, whether that's live or online.
Still alive! Charm's gonna land onto him! Is he gonna be able to walk away? Baker is still running, still damaging him, and another turn, and expansion goes down!
While there are half a dozen top-tier esports, more than 100 different titles are being played competitively around the world. Esports break all boundaries. They're played by men and women across cultures and can be played on consoles, PCs, and even mobile devices. Esports are truly a world sport. Over the last decade, we've seen interest, broadcasting, and live events eclipse those of their traditional sport counterparts. Esports are a massive draw. We love to watch them live, and we love to watch them stream. For people under 30, video games are the most popular media industry in the world, more popular than television, music, or movies. But competitive video game play is not just something we do, it's something we watch. In 2016, more people watched the League of Legends Championships than the World Series, the NBA Championships, or the Stanley Cup playoffs. That makes the top 3 sporting events in the World Cup, the Super Bowl, and a video game competition. Esports are the sport of the rising generation. Talented players, broadcasters, and managers are filling every level from professional, now to collegiate, high school, and even Pee-wee. To many, esports is the biggest world they've never heard of. But to millennials, it's the future of competition, of broadcasting, and of sport. But not the distant future, the future of today. This is esports.
We're on a journey and we're going by bike. Bicycles set people free. It starts as kids when bikes set us free to explore the edges of our neighborhood. It continues into adulthood when weekend rides set our minds free from work and worry. It's the reason why still today bikes are at the heart of everything we do. Through our products, we propel bike lovers forward, be it in pursuit of personal enjoyment or peak performance. Through our business approach, we strengthen our community in Madison, Wisconsin, where we design and build the vast majority of our American-made products. Through our advocacy, we promote healthier, happier, bike-smart communities, both locally and nationally. We set out on this journey the day Sarah and Chris combined names to form Saris. So grab a bike and join us.
This is the Women's Elite Finale, CVR World Cup LA. So exciting. Here are your final results for this women's. In first place, Carrie Conabear. Carrie Conabear off the front, more watts than anybody else. You've got to be kidding me. Carrie Conabear, then Beth York, then Jennifer Reel, and oh my goodness, we are going to see a shakeup. In second, Claudia Baring. Unbelievable that this is happening. She's coming up over the top of the group right here. Meisel's trying to close the gap, but now it doesn't look like she's going to do it. Gets out, puts down 400 watts, comes across that line first. Third, Beth York. That may be the surprise of the day. Not surprise in her ability, but managed to stay close enough to the front that her big sprint at the end, and took those points away from Claudia in the previous one in that sprint as well. You know what? Beth is a lot of things, but I didn't know she was a sprinter. And Beth York comes around her, knocks her back, and look at that. Hugs all around. Those of you who are watching on the intrawebs, my goodness, you have just been inaugurated, baptized in a sense into what virtual cycling is all about. The hardest video game ever.
Holy smokes! I'm like exhausted just watching this thing. I mean, this is incredible. This is incredible, Chris. That finish was unbelievable.
Hey CVR race fans, we are here in the postseason. We've got a bracket A women's head-to-head, Dixie Newsome versus Mary Still, and in the C bracket men we've got Fraser White and RC Ivany, and in the D bracket men Mike Szymanski versus Jason Economou, and we're about 3 minutes. I think we're about 4 minutes away from the start of the men's race, and looks like we're about 5 minutes away from the start of the ladies' race. We are getting ready for Vancouver, coming up in just a little bit over a week. So we've got some people out on vacation, some people attending to some other things. So you're stuck with Frank Garcia as an announcer today versus Chris or Beth. And I may not do a lot of commenting throughout the race. We'll see how it goes as we're trying to, like I said, sort of pack up things and get ready for the ship to Vancouver. We've got the finals coming up next week for the postseason. This is to see who will get to the finals. Few glitches in the system today that the officials are dealing with. It looks like a couple of the earlier races, riders went the wrong way, and so it looks like we'll have 3 up next week in the finals instead of just head-to-head. At least that's our current understanding of how things are going. to be handled for people who went the wrong way this week. So I will confirm that in writing. CVR World Cup will post that, but that is my understanding currently from the officials. Okay, looks like we're about 2 minutes and 30 seconds from the start. We've got Mike Szymanski out in KISS uniform. We'll be able to show you his view a little bit later. He looks like he does in game. I hope a few of you got to catch Zone E, where Kim was fully digitized and completely in game. That was a lot of fun earlier today as well. So both his front and back views, which really was a great view to watch the racing on. And we'll be highlighting that next week, I hope, as well. Get to see Kim's stream. You can probably also check that out in our streams and the recordings on CycleView TV. And maybe we'll try and get a little bit of that we can show in as well. So that will be sort of a fun piece to sort of look at where we think the future is headed. Won't be that way in Vancouver. It's an idea that we just came up with the last couple of weeks, and Kim was able to execute that for us. So we're about a little bit over a minute from the start. To see Bath Salts is in the pen as well. Looks like there's quite a few people out to help the C and D bracket races. Looks like we have a number of ladies also joining to help. Let's see, we've got Emily. I don't see Mary in there yet with about 1:53 to go. Maybe I'm just missing her as well. Try and take a look at that as we go through. About a minute, 30 seconds from the start of the women's race as well. So I would expect to see her in. And I will take a look here just real quick. I think that should be Mary Still and Dixie Newsom. Okay, we've got the start of the men's race. Typical big start here. And we'll try and pick up the various people who are racing as well. I still don't think I see Mary Still in the women's pen. And so Mary may be cutting it really, really close. So it may be a victory lap race for Dixie here today. We'll see right at the start. As well. Oh, and it sounds like she's having difficulty getting into the pen, which is really unfortunate as the race is off. So that is, very, very interesting. We'll have to see. I know there was some log-on issues earlier today, and there's been, some odd issues. So that'll probably be an official's call in conjunction with chatting with Dixie. So we see where that one is. So I think we'll check in on the ladies as they go around and see how things are going. But we'll also try and understand what's going on with Mary Still. And we'll try and get on some of the different riders as well. Give me just a moment here. Try and pull Jason in as well. It's Jason and Mike. They're both streaming. I really appreciate that. It makes it much more fun to watch the head-to-head here between the two racers. So hopefully we'll be able to pull in Jason's stream as well. Let me just check on that right at the moment. It doesn't look like I'm getting a signal there just right at the moment. Oh, there we go. Okay, so Jason is streaming, but we don't have a view of him per se, but at least we'll be able to pull up that view in a pinch, and I'll try and find him. So I have his view. We'll be able to use his view, and then we'll go ahead and try and pick up the D race as well. Or actually, they are the D race. We'll try and pick up the C race, which is Fraser White and RC Ivany. So try and pick those up as well. So I've got Fraser White as well. And I don't see RC Ivany. I'll try and pull him up as well in the race also. So we've got the lead pack here forming together nicely. We see Mike is working hard, starting to get that controlled breathing going, and we see that Jason is right there with him, following those KISS jerseys as you go. And okay, so let's see. I've got Fraser White on 2. Looks like they're trying to make a little break off the front. And I do not see Ivany, but I'm taking a look for him. He might be a little bit further back. Trying to pick up where he might be, but this might force a break in the pack that either Mike or Jason could take advantage of. So I do see Fraser White off in this little pack of 5, and they have about 8 seconds on the Szymanski group, but it looks like Szymanski's going to try and maybe with his teammate pull that back in, but it looks like Bath Salts is trying to animate the race on the front. Of course, it's a head-to-head today, and this is probably more interesting for Jason, so he's just got to stay on, and we can see from his perspective that he's just here on the back. It looks like he's conserving energy. Heart rate at about 167. Looks like Mike's at around 172, so similar heart rates. And it looks like they don't want to let anything get away here, but I think that the front of the race is moving away quickly. So we're just going to have a number of races within a race here. If we look at on monitor 2, we'll see Fraser White off in this break. RC Ivany nowhere to be seen. I didn't see him start the race. Always possible that he went the wrong way today, so we'll make sure that that wasn't indeed the case. But if not, it looks like Fraser has got a victory lap here to move into the finals. And it looks like we have a race on between Mike and Jason. Jason is marking Mike very, very well. But we've got 3 KRT riders here from the KISS Racing team. And so they definitely have numbers. So Mike's got a couple of teammates, and I think he will look to use them. But I think what we'll also see is Jason just marking the three riders, I take that back, just marking Mike and sort of letting the other two riders do what they want to do. Typically the tactic here for the team will be if they're on Discord and they're coordinated, they have a team car, what you're going to see is they're going to try and do a coordinated attack where they all do a big sprint at the same time, and then you have sort of three guys moving away from two guys, and that will really put the onus on Jason to respond to that attack each time. Otherwise, you're going to get three guys off the front with the ability to draft and move at a quicker pace in Zwift and sort of get away. Now, one of the things that I'm seeing here is some pretty high heart rates. So these guys are going pretty hard, and if we look at Mike, you can see he is definitely working hard. He is breathing deeply, and maybe they were off to try and catch the group that's in front of them, but I think that group sort of moved on at this point, almost closing in on a minute. Looks like at least in the men's race, all the riders went in the right direction. We're going to switch to the women's race just here really quickly and take a gander at Dixie and Emily, both Vixen riders. Probably just going to work really hard and maybe sort of intra-team see who can take the day and just make sure they're working hard. And you see here that Emily is working quite hard. Looks like she's trying to leave Dixie behind, and so I'm sure Dixie doesn't necessarily appreciate that, but climbing back on there, and Dixie's heart rate getting up into the 179 area. But it's a good thing for Dixie to be working hard and sort of maybe moving towards a peak as well. Okay, we're starting getting a list to starboard on Mike, so maybe the fatigue is starting to set in. I can't imagine Jason with a 3-on-1 would go for an attack here. He is on his Tron bike, and as is Mike, so that's fun. And I think he's just going to sit here. I think Jason's just going to follow this to the end, wait certainly for the climb, and then maybe on the climb he might be able to get away from Mike. But Mike's got a couple of people, and they can definitely chase back on the descent. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out here today. See if we can pick up some in-game noise from one of the monitors as well. Okay, we do have a music under track, so you'll pick that up as well. Let me just check on a couple of things here. So we do have a music under track. It's really low, so you're going to have to turn up the music. If I come back on, and I will from time to time as the race updates and we get into the climb and some other areas, I will start talking softly to give you a moment to turn it down. But in the meantime, enjoy the soundtrack, and we'll be back in a bit. Okay, everyone, I'm back, and I'm going to start talking louder. If you've turned up the tracks, you'll certainly want to turn me down a little bit. Lord knows we're starting to hit the climbs here. We're on a 4% grade. Looks like we've got Jason on the front here. Well, not really on the front, sort of one back from the front. KRT guys marking him now. That's an interesting turnaround. And we see Mike here. He is working hard at this point. Looks to me like Jason is as well. A really well-matched pair here for the race today. And it'll be interesting to see how they work up on the climb as well, because the people that they're with, you got KRT guy doing 5 watts per kilogram. So I think they're a little bit stronger, but the question is, will they put Mike in a spot of bother? And it looks like they might be doing that a little bit by going as hard as they're going. And what they might end up doing is pulling Jason away from Mike. So it'll be interesting to see how the team tactics develop as we do the climb up the hill today. There is a lot of climbing today. It doesn't let up. It is big time climbs, and we see both Mike and Jason working together here. Now, the interesting part to me here is you've got Barbara on KRT, and now it looks like he's marking Jason, which would make sense, but he was pulling pretty hard, and I'm not sure. Looks like they were trying to stay with Pyle. I don't. Doesn't make sense to me. And now you've got sort of the reverse happening, where you've got Barbara sitting on with Pyle, Jason, and really they're moving away from Mike. I mean, this is very interesting. It seems to me that at this point Rick should just stop pedaling and come back to Mike, or otherwise he might be putting them into a spot of bother. And he's continuing to stay on. That is not what you would expect to see from a teamwork perspective. And we can see here that Mike is really struggling to stay on at this point. And, okay, it looks like Rick has separated from the group a little bit. But that sort of little extra pushes that he made would have helped that group go a little bit faster up the hill and sort of move people away. And he's still holding a bit of effort here. He needs to come back and not try and make Mike go any harder. Pretty sure Mike's going as hard as Mike can go at the moment. And now Jason is going to look to get away. Now, what should happen here from the KRT perspective is they ought to just sort of settle in and find a rhythm. And Barbara is still going too hard. I think he's probably trying to get his teammate to go a little faster, but I think Mike's giving it all he can, and Rick just needs to get there, get a wheel, get a good rhythm, and let Mike sort of climb up the hill at this 9%. We see Mike is really struggling here, and this is what we like. Well, we don't necessarily like to see people just suffer, but you can tell so much more when you can see the rider and see how they're working. And you see Barbara trying to up the tempo again, and I think better would be to sort of just take Mike easy up the hill, and then they could chase on the descent. I think that Barbara is definitely going to have the energy to pull back. As long as they're only 15 or 20 seconds back, maybe even a little bit more, you can pull that back. But that gap that he keeps opening really is just going to put Mike way back on the back foot. And if they had worked together a little bit better, maybe they could have caught on to Goodley, or maybe they'll catch Goodley anyway as time goes by, and then they can perform the chase. So Jason sees his opportunity here. He is going all in, but there is still a lot of climbing left. So they have just got to sort of sit here and work in. We see Jason's up on the white part of the road already. on Box Hill. And you see Mike is just trying to get there. Now, there can be definitely a mental thing that happens when you hit the right white road. You know you're close to the top, and so you think you can go ahead and sort of, hang in there as well. Now the question is how comfortable is Jason on this climb? This is great effort being put in by Mike. Really suffering, but he's doing a great effort here. His teammate keeps trying to get him to come along. Again, I think probably a little bit better would just be to sort of settle in at 3 watts, 3.2 watts per kilogram, and just let Mike ride that in, maybe even get a little bit of a rest as well. So they're at about 18 seconds, and that's going to grow rapidly as they hit the flats, the way that Zwift does its timings. But I think they'll be able to pull that back. I think Barbara's really strong, and so if he just doesn't totally destroy Mike here, I think they can get this back on the descent. It'll be interesting to see what is happening, and you see Mike just head down doing all that he can to sort of hang in there, and then Barbara's lifting it up again, but really he needs to stay sort of in that 3.2 range, probably just the 3 range at this point. I think Barbara's probably concerned that they won't pull it back, but they've got Goodley up the road just a bit, and I think that they can connect with him first, and then have a decent chance at chasing Sokolsky, Pyle, and Jason Economou. So we'll see how that works out. And again, that separation is occurring as they start to hit the flatter spots. And at this point, Mike just might be too cooked, right? It's just sort of over FTP long enough that he's not even going to really be able to hold the wheel at this point. Now you can do an awful lot trying to hold on to your teammate here, but at some point the legs just shut down, and we may be at that point here for Mike. So he just overcooked it to the top of the hill, and that's always the danger that you get if you try and get your teammate to go too far over F2P for too long. Eventually they just blow up, and so you see they're hitting the flat spot here where they would normally have a great shot at pulling people back in, but Mike at this point, he's just cooked, and so that spot where they could make up a lot of time because of Barbara's strength it's just not there, right? And so he's just going to have to wait, give it some time, wait for Mike to recover, and then hope they can continue the chase from there. It would have been better to be 10 or 15 seconds further back at the top of the climb, but have the energy to do the chase. But they'll come back to it at this point, and we'll see what they can do. I mean, a fantastic effort being made by Mike here, and tough spot if you're Barbara. You want to keep Mike in the race, and so it's a tough call as to how you push. Okay, looks like Mike's getting a little bit of recovery, and so now we'll see if things turn as they get to the top and head down the hill. Not a lot of space left. Valiant effort here. We'll take a look at this as we go down the hill and see if they have a chance of catching. And we won't really know for sure until the bottom. But it looks like Jason's getting a free ride. down the hill. So Pyle and Sokolsky may be working with Jason, so it may not have been evident that they were teammates, but they certainly do. At least Pyle does seem to be working well with Jason, so I don't know if that's just a fortunate draw for Jason, or if they were indeed working together, and if they're working together, it's going to be hard. But you see Barbara here, he could have really put a huge effort on the downhill, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. And Szymanski could have just gotten a big rest while going pretty fast, right? Now there's only 4 kilometers to the finish. It looks like they're about 2 minutes back, but again, that time will dwindle considerably once they hit the flatlands. And so it'll be interesting to see how much they pull back. And right now you're seeing Mike get a huge rest, and Jason's still working hard. So Jason's almost at the bottom, still on about a 3% downslope. He's got about 1.5 miles to go. It's going to be really hard to close that as well, but we'll see what they can do. I'm going to just take a quick peek. I think Barbara's got a lot left in the tank, probably more like an A or a B rider, and so it'll be interesting to see what they can do once they hit the flatlands. And you see that time's coming down dramatically now, about a second for every second that passes. But I just don't know if that's going to be enough. I think Jason may have done enough at this point, only being 1.2 miles away from the finish. That's going to be a lot of distance to close down. At this point, that's probably about 600 meters that you've got to close in 2,400. And at this point, Barbara can just pull as hard as he can, and Mike's got to do everything that he can to stay with him. I think this has been a huge effort by Mike, and you see he's all in, but he's able to hold about 3.2 watts per kilogram, maybe. And we see they're down to about 500 meters. So only 500 meters to Jason. And you see Jason's getting a little bit nervous about that as they come up and out of the subway. And so the chase is on. You see, I think they're going to pull Goodley back here and go right on by him. And that just shows you how much time you can make up. And you see that to Jason, we've only got about 340 meters at this point. Now, I just don't think Mike's got it. Oh, well, I take that back. He's going to make a huge effort here. And you got 0.8 miles to the finish for Jason. So 0.6 miles, 1.5 kilometers, and Mike just can't hold on to the wheel. Jason is going to take this, but a fantastic effort by Mike. And I know they'll talk it over in the team car, maybe use my name in vain a little bit. I think Barbaro was trying to do all that he could, but I think they would have had a fantastic chase on the descent and then through the other if maybe they just saved a little bit more of Mike. But, fantastic effort by Mike today. You have a teammate come out who's stronger than you to help you out. And there are times, I have done this many, many times, where I am just like, just leave me for dead on the road. That would be much better than the suffering I'm going through trying to stay on your wheel. And that is absolutely something that you do, for a teammate. We see, we're going to see here, Jason finish, take the win for the day, and fantastic racing by him. Great endurance on the climb. Looks like Pyle is indeed sticking with him, and so nice top 10 finish for him today. And then we'll see. We'll take a look at Mike and Barbara coming in as well. They did catch Goodley, which just kind of gives you an indication of what they might have been able to do with a little bit more in a tank on the downhill. But that's something that they can discuss, team tactics as well. So Jason finishes 6th, just missing out on a top 5 today, but he will advance to the finals. And we see that Mike here made a fantastic effort, and you can just see it in his face that he gave it his all. And congratulations to him for a great season and making the semifinals of CVR World Cup Men's Bracket D. We'll watch him finish, and then we'll sign off for the day. Let me just take a quick look at the women. Like we said, looks like Emily set a new PR on the climb, and I think they did a different course than the men, if I'm not mistaken. So it has been a very strange day indeed with the events, and so the officials will have to sort that all out. But congratulations to Dixie. She will certainly advance to the finals next week, and we'll get a ruling from the officials with regards to Mary not being able to get into the pen with all of the issues today. It is likely that she will get to race, and we may have a 3-up or 4-up the way that it worked out. I think both of the ladies in the earlier race have to go through, so it may be a 4-up race next week or a 3-up race next week instead of head-to-head. So that'll be kind of fun and different, and we'll make the best of a few glitches in the matrix today, and maybe we'll swallow the right pill and have some very exciting racing next week. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining us. A shout out to our sponsors as well: PowerTap, Sarah, CycleOps, Peaks Coaching Group, and Garneau. A lot of fantastic swag showing up to everybody. Is a little bit late, but I think everybody will really appreciate the quality of the stuff that's been going out. Check out the posts on CVR World Cup on our Facebook page. See how those things look. That Team T really looks nice. It's a special fabric, and it just has a great look, especially in the black with the world on it. Take a look at that. Thanks to Garneau, and thanks to Saris, and thank you for watching. See you next week.